We're back with another video tip reacting to moistcritical Technoblade's Larping Situation. Let's get into it.
I've got a bit of a weird thing that I want to blabber about for a little bit. I've been aware of the LARPtuber community for a few weeks. Chat put that puppy on my radar. In a nutshell, it's basically a bunch of people that have made channels to emulate other YouTubers. So they take on the persona like Larpiplier, who does like old school Markiplier style content. They do similar mannerisms, similar videos that they made back in the day, and there's LARP tubers for a ton of channels. Like there's one for me, one for so many others, and it's like a growing, like blossoming community. And I think it's all in good fun from everything I've seen. And then today, Matt's been really like today. Matt's been like locked in the mainframe. He's been seeing fucking everything here. Like he's got Pegasus's Millennium Eye. Matt asked me if I had heard about the guy pretending to be Technoblade, and
You got that Millennium Uzi. Okay, I'm sorry.
instantly I already knew what that was going to be about. A like LARP tuber that's doing Technoblade content, which I feel is a really weird concept in and of itself because Technoblade passed away in 2022. It feels weird if you're trying to emulate him and in a way kind of pseudo take his place in that content and use that to get views, make money, that kind of thing.
And I will shed some light on this, because if you guys don't know, I am part of the LARPing community. On my channel, you can check out 8-Bit Larper. And I just want to say, in addition to that, a lot of people take that the wrong way in what Moist is saying. Moist is not saying that we are the exact copy of the people who are LARPing. And a lot of the smart people will know that, but a lot of people will take this and assume that we are trying to be exactly like the people who are LARPing. No, we're just inspired by the people who we are LARPing. We play the similar games, and yes, we have similar stuff, but not exactly. We try to switch it up with our own stuff, whatever that's like, switch up in certain parts of editing, certain parts of the way we talk, or like the certain jokes we make. And that's why kind of like the 8-Bit Milo channel hasn't gotten really much hate. Granted, it's not really big. It's only 500 and growing subs, but it's not, I haven't seen like a lot of hate on it. And I think that's because it is just different. And I get and I'm not trying to, I know I'm putting myself out there like this, but I think the Technoblade, LARPing as Technoblade was expected. I expected Technoblade LARP a lot. What I think he could have done, instead of saying he's Technoblade, he can make his own stuff and say, I'm inspired by Technoblade. And you have a similar, you get, maybe you get, someone can make you a skin that, is similar to Technoblade's, but not the exact copy. You know what I mean? And then you do similar stuff like Technoblade, but not the exact copy. Or maybe you do, because, content at the end of the day is all copies of other form of content off of other people. That is just the thing because of how YouTube has grown in the past few years. That's just how it is. Whatever that's gaming, whatever that's reacting, whatever that is. So that's to be expected. But I can also get why and that's why I think on it. I also get why people are angry at it, because people are like, why are you loving that person? I get why people are saying other things, which he will mention in the video and I'll talk about when he mentions it. But just for this part, I get why people are angry, but I think that a lot of people take it the wrong way when he says this exact stuff here. So sorry for talking a lot. Let me get back to the video.
So I decided to put my peepers on it to see, like, well, what is he doing? Because maybe it's like very respectful. And in doing so, I saw that Technoblade's father actually made a statement about it as well, which we'll get to in a moment. And after, perusing a little bit, I feel like the guy's probably approaching it with good intentions, but I still find it to just be off-putting. For example, he's playing with Technoblade's friend Skeppy in a video, like, so he's actively trying to collab with Technoblade's friends while pretending to be their deceased friend.
Yeah, I think that is one. I think Skeppy is grieving a little bit. I think he wants to feel like Technoblade is around again, probably. 2, from what I know, Skeppy reached out to Technoblade. I'm not going to say any further comments on that, because I'm not the biggest part of the group, but I am well aware of Technoblade. Far as I know, he, Skeppy reached out to Technolarp. Sorry, I keep saying Technoblade. Technolarp. But I think it's a sign of a grievance. I don't think he means it as like, oh, this dead friend hook. I think he's doing it as a grievance thing. That is my thing. He wants to feel like there's someone like Technoblade in their group again. Because he wants to feel that energy again. Just to have something familiar around is what I take it as. And again, everyone has their own opinions. You can put hates in the comments. Go ahead. I love you. But still. Anyways, let's continue.
Like, that's some, like, Skinwalker type shit. Like, that just kind of rubs me the wrong way.
Today's the day you've all been waiting for. Skeppy collab.
There's only one game mode we can play right now. Do you know what that game mode is?
It better not be sumo.
It's not. It's
Okay.
not.
I don't know, maybe I'm on the crack pipe here, but to me it really does feel like it's more than just paying homage and, like, a wholesome kind of tribute to Technoblade's legacy and, like, that style of content.
And that's what it is supposed to be. Yes, that is exactly what Technolarp has said is supposed to be. It's kind of like a reboot of his old videos to feel like Technoblade, to continue the Technoblade legacy. That is kind of what it is. He's not trying to be exactly like Technoblade, but it's like a tribute to him. And he donates all the money he makes as well, if people are wondering that as well. He donates all that money as well. So, it is supposed to be like that, and I get why people are angry.
More so now that he's actively trying to be a replacement here in the community for Technoblade, LARPing as him. But I don't even think he's doing it maliciously. I do believe that this individual is a big fan of Technoblade, and he doesn't use a gold crown. He does silver to show that he's not, you know, Technoblade's level. He's just the guy imitating him. And according to his description, he is saying that he's in the process of deciding where the money that he's earned from this Technoblade LARPing is going to go, like to what charity. So I do get the sense that this isn't a bad person here.
No.
It's not some mustache twirling supervillain doing this for evil reasons or anything. But I also still just don't think that this is necessarily a good thing either. And like I mentioned,
and I agree with that. I do think it is pushing boundaries, yes, because the person is no longer with us. And I do think that, but at the same time, I also see why someone would make a channel off of him and do similar content into the tribute for him. So I can see, like I said, I see both sides.
Technoblade's father has responded, and it feels pretty obvious that his father is just in a really uncomfortable, awkward spot with this whole thing. So first and foremost, Technolarp does openly state that he never got permission from the family.
So yeah, that is a little iffy on that. At the end of the day, people have free will, right? This is how I take it. At the end of the day, permission or not, people have free will. People will do whatever they please, and people will take it however they take it, right? I'm not going to put any inputs on that, because I'm my own thing. I'm not part of this group as a LARPer. I'm my own LARPer. And so far, people say I'm goated, so. But, at the end of the day, we have free will. And people are going to do what they want to do, whatever they have permission or not. But knowing Technolarp a little, I haven't really spoken to him, but so far, off of stuff I've seen from others and others' perspective, and there has been a time I was on the stream where actually he was talking and stuff. I think that if Technodad really wants Technolarp to stop, because I know he's conflicted, if he really wants Technolarp to stop, he will put his foot down. You know, he'll say, hey, stop. Same with the person I'm LARPing, if they tell me to stop, it stops. That is the boundary of all LARPing. If the person tells you stop, I don't want this, then you stop. But until he says something, people will know that people have free will and they will do whatever they please, whatever they get a yes or no answer. And until then, he's going to keep going.
To do this. I never got permission, but Technodad has seen me and has not had any intent to stop me as of the moment. We don't know his thoughts yet. Let's give him some time to figure out if he likes it or not. I don't love that statement from TechnoLarp because he's apparently reached out multiple times to talk to Technodad about it, to get his feelings on it, and hasn't received any response, so he's taken that silence as like a thumbs up to keep doing it in the meantime. Like, I feel like if you cared enough about it, you'd probably wait to hear his thoughts on it instead of still just going hog wild with it. At least that's what I would have expected if this is truly, you know, all about being respectful and everything, considering you are making a career out of LARPing as this man's deceased son. And according to this article, TechnoLarp said his monetization was disabled, claimed he would not earn revenue unless Technodad allowed it. I haven't found that post on his Twitter, so maybe it was somewhere else. And I also don't know if that's referring to, like, donating the money to charity, because right now, at least judging by the About section on his channel, that is his plan with it. So I don't know if, like, that's what he's doing temporarily until Technodad decides whether or not he's allowed to make money personally from it or not, which I think would be fucked up. Not sugarcoating that, not pulling any punches. I think that would truly be pretty sinister there. At least...
Yeah, if you're doing it as a dead person, if you're LARPing someone as a, I put that in the wrong way. If you LARP someone as a deceased person, and you make money off them, that is messed up. Like, for example, if I LARP Ryan, 8-bit Ryan, and if let's say I start making money, the moment I start making a decent amount of money, let's say I make $100 a month, I don't think 8-bit Ryan would care. He'd be like, eh. Like, yeah, I'm making money, but I'm only making 100. But think about someone who is LARPing as someone huge and gets huge. Let's say, for some reason, I start popping off. I got million subscribers, and I'm getting about $200,000 a month. Putting bullcrap out there. But let's say that, right? The moment I'm making that money, the moment I will be asking permission, am I allowed to make this money? If I can contact Ryan in any way possible, am I allowed to make money using this to, like, pay my bills and just keep going because I love to make the content? If he tells me no, I'm keeping the content the same, like the old school styles, the old school games, some newer games, I'll just change the banner, change the name, and change my avatar. And change my description. The content and me still the same, with few differences to, you know, to please them. But then that way I can still make content, but then I'm doing it I'm doing it not under that name, as respect to that person. And I get why people like LARPaPlayer. I bet you LARPaPlayer does make some money from it, keeps some for himself, so you can keep going with doing this, but he donates almost all of it to charity. LARPaPlayer does, because he makes a lot of money from it. And Markiplier doesn't do anything about it because he's not making that much money. He might take some for himself to pay rent. That's about it, though. Yeah, I live some way, right? But as a deceased person, that does reach new boundaries where you can't make any money because it is considered disrespectful.
Right now, you can say that the money's going to a positive cause through this whole thing, but if it does end with him trying to, like, personally financially gain from it, I think that'd be an entirely different story. And I've already seen, like, the cope and, like, the false equivalents where people are saying, well, what about Michael Jackson impersonators and Elvis Presley impersonators?
You can't really compare Elvis Presley and Michael Jackson to a regular dude. You can't put someone who got, like, yes, Technoblade is famous, really famous, but you cannot put someone who is as famous as Michael Jackson and Elvis Presley on the same pedestal as YouTubers. You can't.
Very popular.
And it's a little iffy on the grounds of that, and I'm not the best to explain why.
I don't even think it's worth getting into the weeds of it. There is such an obvious difference between a YouTube creator like Technoblade and fucking Michael Jackson and Elvis Presley.
Literally.
Like, I really don't even think it's worth yapping on that further. I think anyone that can activate some neurons should see why this really isn't a great counterpoint by any means. And another thing I've seen is people saying that Technoblade himself would find it entertaining and would give his blessing. And maybe, but you don't know that. Nobody knows that. So it's not fair to just write it off saying, nope, this is all good because I'm sure that he would be giggling at it too. And it feels like that's just a way for people to like hand wave maybe a guilty feeling that they get by watching this content potentially. I don't know. But there's no way of knowing how he would respond to it, unfortunately. So all you can go by is like, well, how does his father feel about it? And I think that's a very fair thing to look at because this is his son that is now being LARPed by this individual. So what does he think? He said, I've been avoiding addressing this for a while now. I just don't know how to react to this. I mean, certainly it's flattering to Techno, but like, what am I supposed to do? I will say that TechnoLARP has reached out to me on a few occasions to get my take on things, and I have been putting that off for a while. I just don't know what to say to him. Lately, I've been feeling very much like I just want to hide in my room and work on my scripts and space visualization software. Some days I don't go outside, it's very peaceful, and I really haven't had enough peace in my life. I feel a little guilty for how I've kind of disappeared from the community, but I know I'll come back at some point.
And he's allowed to feel this way. And he's allowed to feel this way about the situation.
I'm still ruminating on the whole thing.
And he's allowed to. He's allowed to feel that way in this situation.
A totally understandable perspective here. It is a confusing and uncomfortable topic and thing to even be...
From the father's perspective, yes, it is confusing. It is weird. I understand it. Same way, like, when Markiplier saw himself, he probably saw another dude doing himself. He probably felt a little weird about it too. Right? But, again, free will, and it's going to happen. With anybody who is big, there will always be someone else either trying to be like him or LARPing as them. Deceased or not deceased. No matter what. I mean, heck, in the LARPtuber Discord, we've gotten people literally doing, and I'm pretty sure they got banned, doing, the mustache man. So, people will do it no matter what, is the thing.
Thinking about as a father with a son who's passed away. Like that, and especially in his case where for years now, there's been like a ton of like fucked up things people have been like doing and like sending his way. So like, yeah, it's something that he's very clearly conflicted on because, as he says, on one hand, it is like very flattering to his son, like what impact his son made on so many others to such an incredible degree that someone wants to like literally try and be him and entertain through his...
Again, he's not trying to be him. He's not trying to be exactly like TechnoLARP. He's just trying to make content similar to TechnoLARP. But he's not trying to make an exact replica of him. And that's where people, I think, are not understanding. I think this is where the point of the video, where people take out of the context the most. He's not trying to be like him. He's trying to do similar things like him, but not in an exact way that TechnoLARP is, or Technoblade is.
Son's style that he helped innovate and pioneer. But it goes beyond just being inspired by him to try and do content. It is literally trying to wear his skin like a fucking flesh suit, like a flesh Gundam, and be the Technoblade guy.
And he's just wrong in this part. That is not correct at all.
The Technoblade LARPer, even if he doesn't think that he's trying to be a replacement, again, by integrating himself with Technoblade's friends like that as the Technoblade Larper, it is something that feels like it's encroaching on that territory. And I don't believe that's okay, and I think that's a very uncomfortable position for his father to be in. He also replied to a user on Twitter who asked, how do you feel about people who see you as Techno's replacement? I am not a replacement. I'm an obvious knockoff to entertain people. I could never be him.
And he's right. Literally, he's saying, I am not a replacement. He is trying to just be entertaining, to give the same feeling Technoblade did, but not be exactly like him. And people don't understand that.
And that's the right lip service, but when you are actively collabing with Technoblade's friends, you are now going beyond just paying homage to the...
Skeppy contacted TechnoLarp first. Skeppy went out of his way to collab with TechnoLarp. You think TechnoLarp is just gonna say no? You think if a big creator like Skeppy goes and reaches out to someone who just wanted to do this, who's doing this for fun, see one of the creators that he loves from that group say, hey, can we collab? You think someone is going to turn that down? Think about it. You think someone's going to turn the biggest opportunity ever down? It'd be one thing if TechnoLarp contacted Skeppy, then that would be his fault, and that would be severely messed up. To be like, hey, I'm LARPing as your dead friend. No, Skeppy saw it, and he wanted to do it. He wanted to collab. And that's what people are not understanding. And people think he's just supposed to stand by and say, well, let's not do it. That's not how that works.
The creator that you're emulating, you are now directly getting involved in that community as the Techno LARPer. So naturally, as you continue to do that, more and more members of the community will view you as the Technoblade guy. Like, yeah, you're LARPing, but you are like the Technoblade guy now. So even if your intention isn't to be a replacement, by integrating yourself in that way, beyond just making like videos that are kind of tributes to the content, or like, you know, just meant to entertain and remind people of like the incredible work that Technoblade did, it just feels over the line. At least to me, it does. Like, doing LARP tubing on the whole, I think, is totally fine. And it feels like all of them, for the most part, are coming from like a place of good intentions and good fun. And it's been like really, you know, a lot of silliness and wackiness, but at the end of the day, it's all like very wholesome for the most part. And even in this case, I don't think this is a bad guy or anything, but this is just very different than the others, because this is someone that is no longer with us, and now you are making a career off of impersonating them, like one-to-one, integrating yourself into his community of friends as well, and integrating yourself into the family by constantly reaching out, and instead of waiting for them to give their perspective on it, whether or not you have like their blessing, like, which I think would be a very nice gesture, you instead just take their silence as just the go, 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 put your foot on the gas. Like, it just, I don't think that that's like in the good spirit of like LARP tubing. It would have been significantly better had you just been someone that was very clearly inspired by Technoblade and making your own content as your own content creator, paying homage to it and growing that way, instead of just instantly being like, no, I'm just the Techno LARPer. I'm just going to be the Technoblade.
And I agree, and okay, I will agree with that. Alright, that's what I did with the 8-bit LARPer. I'm not Ryan, but I'll do similar content he made because I like those games, and I wanted to play those games, and I wanted to make my own videos on those games. And everyone that watches it, if you actually watch my content, I'm not being exactly like him. I'm doing the content in my own style, in my own way, but similar to give off that feeling. So, I can agree with what he's saying here. But I think the way Moist needs to word things needs to be worded a little bit better.
Guy. So if you ever need someone that can kind of sound like Technoblade and makes Technoblade content, then collab with me. It's just, I don't know. I don't love it. Like, be honest with me, am I on crazy pills?
He's
or
not
something? Because
asking to be
I do kind of get similar vibes.
He never asked anyone outside of the LARPing community to collab with him. They came to him.
Individuals or even corporations will use AI to bring back celebrities who have passed away for their own self-interests. Like, now, of course, you can argue, well, there is no self-interest here because he's donating the money to charity, apparently. But even with that being the case, yeah, that's a positive thing. He is benefiting in a big way. This is a very successful YouTube channel. This is a very successful career he is building here solely off being the Technoblade Larper, 1-to-1, and being.
And I can agree with that. I can agree with that. And I can agree with that.
In his
I'm not going to go further on
position
that,
to
but I can
solidify
agree with
himself
that.
there. So, like, he is benefiting in a big way without permission from the family, and he has reached out to try and get that permission with no response and still just doing it anyway. So, like, they feel kind of similar to how some people use AI, but not even gonna get into the can of worms there. Like, the point is, I don't love it. I think it is weird. I don't think he is a bad person. Like, I don't think he is doing it maliciously. Like, these are probably things that he doesn't even really think about. Maybe he is just a super fan who had a voice that was similar, loved this content, and wanted to keep the spirit alive now that LARP tubing is going so well online. So, like, maybe it is coming from a good place, but I just don't think that it's the most overly respectful thing to be doing. I don't. And I do really feel bad for Techno Dad, who is in a very uncomfortable situation with the whole thing. Anyway, I wanted to yap about it a little bit. That's it. So, yeah.
And I'm just gonna say this before I end the video here. I can agree with what he's saying for some parts, and I can disagree with some parts. That's my opinion, and he's allowed to have his opinion. And technically, Dad is allowed to feel weird about the situation. Anybody's allowed to feel weird about a LARPing situation. Everybody's allowed to put their own opinions. At the end of the day, unless you say something about it, people are going to do what they want to do because they have the free will to do so. And people can't, and people won't understand or just don't, or just can't understand that. Anyways, that's my opinion. Hate me if you want. Hate me if you want. I'll see you in the next one.